Be me, a senior CS college student bored during winter break. While doom scrolling through TikTok, I saw something that motivated me to put my programming skills to use. I saw a live stream of someone playing Fossil Fighters. For those who are unfamiliar with Fossil Fighters, it's a Nintendo DS game where it has some pretty fun game mechanics. The first one is you dig up fossils, then you take those dug up fossils, you clean them, and because you clean them, you get to revive the dinosaurs, and what you do with those revived dinosaurs is you use them to fight other people's dinosaurs in combat. It's a fun game, and it's kind of niche, and not many people have talked about it. Wow, 5 years ago? Man, this happened a while ago. Anyways, intro aside, I decided to expand my gameplay programming knowledge by recreating one part of the Fossil Fighters game. The part I'm recreating is specifically the fossil cleaning mechanic, which I believe is one of the best mechanics in the game. Let's get a list of some of the things that I want to get done with this project. For the commercial game engine that I will be using Unity. It is the one that I have the most experience with and the one I'm most comfortable with. As for other things, I am primarily focusing on gameplay. Anything else is kinda optional and whether or not I feel like it. With those two things settled, let's start that project. Alright, the first thing besides creating the project is obviously creating a bean. We're not gonna use it at the moment, so I'm gonna delete it. The first thing I create is the rock. The rock is going to be used to indicate the progress the player encounters as they are cleaning the fossil, as well as indicating when the fossil is damaged. Additionally, I also added back the bean. It'll be used as a collider to detect when the player clicks and collides with certain rocks in order to damage it. This would be used later. Now here's the fun thing. I've implemented the damage mechanics for the rock. Whenever the player clicks the mouse, the collider will move to wherever the player clicks and it will damage the rock. I then used Unity's particle system to create a particle effect for the hammer. Using multiple sprites, I created the fossil. Using that along with the rocks, I utilized the rock sprite mask in order to indicate the damage dealt to the fossil. To explain how the damage dealing of the sediment is done, whenever a piece of the sediment takes a certain amount of damage or is at a certain hit point value, it'll change which sprite is used. So the outer one is at like healthy to somewhat decently damaged, and then it'll go to the soft crust where it'll be able to take slightly more damage and then it'll be cleared. Then the damage will be transferred over to the fossil, and then a sprite mask will trigger, causing the main fossil sprite to disappear and the sprite mask to reveal the damaged part of the fossil. Now that I have the fossil on the rock, I created a way for the project to dynamically create a rock grid to allow for the completed rock cleaning process that would be used for the rest of the project. Along with the hammer, Fossil Fighters has a drill that you can use to clean fossils. The drill is used to clean more precise areas that may damage the fossil if you hit it with the hammer. With that, the drill was obviously the next step that I should progress with this project. Using Unity's particle system and the collider that I used for the hammer, I made it so that every second deals damage to the rock that the drill is currently pressed against, and it also makes dust as in Fossil Fighters. The final tool you have in your toolbox within Fossil Fighters' cleaning mechanic is the X-ray. Using the X-ray, it allows you to see the fossil before you do any damage towards the rock, which may also damage the fossil. The way I achieved this was to increase the opacity of a sprite image of the fossil and then decrease it over time as the X-ray fades away. Now the issue with this at the moment is it's kinda dull. There isn't really much else going on. So I decided to add in some feedback. So the first and greatest thing that you could do with feedback is a simple addition, which is screen shake. Behind me, you can see my attempts at determining which is the great value for the amount of screen shake needed for the project. I eventually come up with a decent value that makes it not obnoxious. Here's a side-by-side of decent screen shake values and absurd values. Now do you see why the values are important? I eventually find a nice, sweet value that's very minimal but very impactful. Another source of feedback is sound. I found sounds online and I put them in the project. Have a listen. If you are listening carefully, you can hear that the pitch of the audio is changing very slightly as you progress through the rock. Have another listen with this in mind. While making the tools, the only way that I was really swapping between the different modes, the drill and the hammer, was to use the Unity editor. Now, I implemented buttons, like in Fossil Fighters, that allows you to swap between the different tools that you have, as well as use the X-ray, which I previously had a keybind to. And I also added a sound for the X-ray. Since a foundation is pretty good at this moment, I decided to create a main menu with interactable buttons that highlight whenever you hover over them, as well as different scenes that you can interact with, like the normal play game, as well as credits and a quit button. The next source of feedback that I wanted to implement was the drill sound. This one was a little bit tricky, and I did have to spend some extra time figuring out the different situations that the program would have to run the sound as well as when to stop it. As you can see, it took a while within this code. Even after successfully implementing it, there were some issues that I encountered. Have a look. I then changed the buttons in the game so that they're the buttons in the main menu, and I also added in a new particle effect for the hammer hit, which I got from kenny.nl, which is a great source for assets. I then added in some indications of which option you have selected for the tool that you have currently active. This, however, did reveal a bug that I missed during my initial go-through with the drill. I got that fixed as soon as I could. I then added a confirmation of destructive action within the quit button. I then took a break from the project because I had to go back to college and, do college stuff. However, I was able to work on it a little bit when I was slightly bored from college work. The thing that I implemented was the microphone detection. So within Fossil Fighters, you could use the Nintendo DS microphone in order to blow away the dust, and so I wanted to put this into this recreation. Have a listen of, and, watch as I go through the testing of what I've implemented. Alright, let's test this out. Whoop. Fish. Hello. I am talking very quietly until now. Works. Here's another testing clip. Great job past me because I didn't work on this project for another couple of months. Because I was focused on schoolwork and also graduation, which by the time of this video releasing, I already graduated college. And now that I have nothing else to do, I wanted to go back to the project. The first thing I did when I got back to the project was create a method of keeping track of the cleanliness of the fossil as well as the damage, and then I made a UI for it to display. Have a look. In that clip, you might have saw that the progress bar was filled all the way, and because of that, I had to rearrange some of my methods for keeping track of the cleanliness, as well as the damage, and also when the progress bar would update. When I completed that, I also went on to a new section, which would be a timer before the start of the cleaning, like in Fossil Fighters. Since you couldn't figure out when the timer ended, I created a UI element that displayed the time, but in this clip, I forgot to link it up to the script. Here's a clip of me fixing that mistake and showcasing the timer in real time of it working. Since I got the start timer done correctly, I started to work on the ending type of sequences between both completing the project as well as the timer for when you end the cleaning. And here is the start of it, which at this point is just currently just making sure that you cannot do anything once you are complete. Since I got the ending condition done, I added in a timer so that it'll keep track of how long you are currently cleaning the fossil, and once you reach 0 or complete the fossil, the timer will stop. Like in Fossil Fighters, which they have a different method for their timer, but fortunately I am only using one screen and couldn't really figure out a decent method for doing what Fossil Fighters has, with a timer that sort of circles around the second screen. Since I got the two main win-lose conditions figured out, I added in a score UI element to indicate what your total score was once you complete the fossil, or fails to complete the fossil. Additionally, the damage done to the fossil also indicates the score that you get once you complete the fossil. If the damage dealt is more than your overall cleanliness, then the score will be lower than it is a nice and clean fossil. Additionally, I also have a main menu button so that you can restart and clean another fossil. One thing I didn't really mention with the microphone stuff is that I also created a UI element that can allow you to change your microphone preference, and it saves through Unity's player preference settings. Since I got most of the game now complete, I made some custom sprites for different types of fossils using a sprite. I then took those created sprites and put them into Unity and made the fossils using those sprites. I also created some additional fossils using just simple shapes. Using those fossils as prefabs, I am able to randomly generate which fossil will be used for the cleaning in each instance of the game when you play through it. Here's a showcase of the different ones in action. Another thing about randomness is that it's sometimes really annoying because you get the same things multiple times in a row when you want other things. Like, it took me many times in order to get the skull when I really wanted to show it off. You might have noticed during the demonstration of all the different fossils, but my method for collision detection as well as the detection for when a fossil is clean is kind of flawed because in Unity I am using basic box type of colliders, and because of that they don't work very well with more complex shapes like the skull, claw, ribs, all of those. So because of that, I can't really do much about that, but you know, just simply ignoring it because it is a lot more complicated for me to just make a new model for the collider than just to tough it out and use general estimations for how big the collider should be when using the entire fossil. I did try, however, but it just comes up with issues like the fossils weren't detected, and because of that, it'll say that the entire fossil is complete, which isn't what I want. The last thing to do now is just to complete the credits, and here it is. Overall, it was a fun project to work on. I got to learn about many things like the microphone setup as well as player preferences and a couple other things, and I think overall it's a very faithful recreation of Fossil Fighter's cleaning mechanic. I could have made some improvements with music as well as a couple other things, but I said that I wanted to do mostly gameplay, and I got the core gameplay stuff down, and there isn't really much else that I could do with it because I don't really want it to be a publicly available project. This is just a personal fun project that I wanted to do, and I really enjoyed my time working on it. Along with that, I want to thank all the people that supported me throughout my academic journey, as well as Aggro Crab for being pretty cool with anyone using their music from another Crab's Treasure, which I have been using throughout this video, as well as Kenny.nl for having beautiful and lovely available art assets that are free for anyone who wants to use them in whatever project that they want, and they're all under Creative Commons 0, so you can use them. The only thing I'd say is you should shout out Kenny because it is a great resource for any developers like myself or others. And one last thing is I thank you for watching the entirety of this video, and if you want to see more type of content like this, feel free to like and subscribe.